Friends, very good evening. Thanks for attending this 7th session. Last session, I hope all of you enjoyed very well. The previous session was handled by CA Shekhar sir. Shekhar sir took us on the recent amendments to tax audit. We felt that this tax audit, new amendments, new additions are too much complicated, especially this, in interest on MSME dues computation is a much tedious task because there will be payments which are not yet made as of March, and also there will be payments which are made before March, but they are all paid after the due date set in MSME laws. So there is a lot of dependency on the data what the assessee predominantly maintains with regard to MSME dues, and therefore we decided that we also need an AA-based approach for computing the interest on MSME dues which are paid as well as which are yet to be paid, as this information needs to be filled in income tax computation, tax audit, as well as financial statements. And therefore, we have with us today CA Swasthik to take us on how to compute interest on MSME dues using A-based approach. On behalf of all of us, I welcome CA Swastik to take the session. Swastik, over to you. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Amit sir, for the introduction. I'll just share my screen.
Yeah.
Hope my screen is visible. Okay.
Yeah.
Good evening, all. So, in the last session, we have already covered what are the major amendments relating to income tax 3CD, as well as one of the main focused point is MSME dues interest calculation and the template for that. So now in this next 15-20 minutes, we are covering the major aspect of MSME payment compliance and section 43BH, the legal framework for the payment compliance, and the solution for calculating using an Excel macro, which is an automation tool what we have developed now. So which will be very much helpful in calculation of outstanding of MSME payables as on 31st March and interest which has to be accrued during the year, and is there any delay for the payment of MSME vendors during the year. So in the last session, Shekhar sir has already explained what is section 43BH, what are the difficulties in that, what are the rules. So everything is available in the YouTube what we have uploaded earlier. So quick run through of the section 43BH of Income Tax Act. It says for tax deduction in the same year, the payment to micro and small enterprise must be made within the 15 days if without an written agreement, or in case of agreement with that party, the due date will be the 45 days. So this means in the same year for the expenses incurred will be allowed only if the payment made should be made within 15 days if there is a written agreement. Without a written agreement. If there is a written agreement, then the due date should be not more than 45 days. So the main objective of 43BH is to ensure timely payment to MSEs, micro and small enterprises. So in case if not paid within the due date, what will be the penalty? Penalty will be the interest at the 3 times of the bank rate will be applicable. The RBI bank rate is already notified by the RBI. As well as for income tax calculation, whatever the principal amount which stands outstanding as on 31st March will not be considered as allowed expenditure for that particular year. So this is the small run through of section 43BH. So with the advent of this 43BH from the assessment year 24-25, the new payment rule will be applicable, and we have to have a track of the number of days outstanding for whether it is 15th day or whether it is a 45th day. That requirement is applicable, and the deduction will be allowed on the delayed payment only in the year of payment. So this is the timely ensured payment to MSEs. We have to ensure in from this current year. So now, from the management perspective as well as from the auditor perspective, it is very time-consuming and error-prone process, because manually uploading all the invoices, the amount of that particular invoices which is outstanding, and number of days delay, whether there is an agreement or not, all these things is very manual and very much complicated process. So for that, we have brought up with come up with one Excel macro automation which automates all the whatever difficulties we are faced. So now it is very simplified and accurate and also very efficient to do it. So how this macro automation works? It simply reads the data from a sheet called interest calculator, which is already there in my macro Excel. Okay, it auto calculates whenever there is a data change. You upload n number of transaction invoice wise, the data, whatever input is required in that Excel sheet. Once you run the macro, the automatically all the calculation revises and gives you whatever is required. And it also calculates the due dates automatically. Now, whether it is 15th day means how many days there is a delay. All those things it calculates automatically, and it computes the delay as well as interest. So how much interest is applicable for that number of days delayed, and all those things per day first it calculates, and number of days delayed, that the interest it calculates. So all those things is embedded in our macro automation tool. So how did I do that? So my partner for doing this is Gemini AI. So I have given the prompt, calculate the interest on payment based on the invoice data. I want the output based on days of delay, per day interest, and the total interest to be charged. And for that, input sheet will be my party A includes the party name, invoice date, agreement. If yes, then it is 45 days credit. If the agreement, there is no specific agreement, then no, which says only 15 days the credit days. F includes the principal amount which is outstanding based on invoices, and G says the date of final acceptance. So the MSME Act says whether the logic behind that is the later of invoice date or acceptance date. So when the final acceptance happens, from then onwards the credit days will be calculated. And I says actual date of payment. Say now management maintains the data invoice wise, actual date of payment is also required. So if it is blank, and for the auditor perspective, we will see as on cutoff date 31st March 2025, that will be the actual payment date. And J column says the annual interest rate what is notified by RBI. The core logic, as I told you, the credit start date will be the later of invoice date or the final acceptance date. The due date will be credit start date plus the credit date, credit period, whether it is 15th day or it is 45 days based on the agreement. And the interest will be charged, the amount into whatever the rate of interest is notified by the RBI into number of days divided by 365 days. So the output column, 3 columns comes automatically, number of days delay, per day interest, and the total interest. Okay, so now I'll just run through the Excel, whatever the macros we have prepared. I'll just delete the output for time being. Okay, so I have 5 scenarios with me now. So part A is nothing but the input, what you have to update in this template. Part B is nothing but the output. So as I told you, party name, the invoice number, the invoice date of that particular party, whether there is an agreement, what is the total principal amount of invoice, that means the taxable amount, date of acceptance, credit period, actual date of payment, and the interest rate. So now I'll run through the different scenarios. Now, as on the first scenario, 20th February 2025, there is an agreement. Amount is 25,000 rupees. Now, is there any delay? That is the one question. Second question, 1st March 2025, there is no agreement. Then, as on 31st March, is there any delay? Since there is no actual date of payment mentioned, it will take 31st March 2025. If I run through, now let's say how to run the macros. The macro is already uploaded here. If you see Shift F11, sorry, Alt F11, you will get to know what are the macros I have updated in this macro sheet. So how did I get this? As I told you, Gemini has given me, once the prompt has given, I have got this output. So I have copy pasted here, and I will just close it. I'll just run this. How to run? Alt F8 is the shortcut, or you can go to developer. Here there is a macros. If you run this, you will see that whatever macros is updated, that macro drop down will come. If you run that, you will get the output. So now in the first scenario, the invoice date is 20th Feb 2025. Since there is an agreement, 45 days there is a credit limit. As on 31st March, there is no number of delays. So the interest calculation is 0. In the second scenario, there is an invoice raised on 1st March 2025, but there is no agreement. In case of no agreement, the date is 15 days is the credit limit. So actual payment is also been not done as on 31st March 2025. So there is a delay of 15th day, 15 days there is a delay. Per day interest has been calculated and the total interest has been already calculated. And the third scenario, 20th Jan 2025, their invoice is raised. There is an agreement for 90 days, but the MSME Act says it is 45 day or 15th day. So since we have an agreement, there is only 45 days delay, the credit limit. So even if there is 90 days credit period as per the agreement, the macro will calculate only in excess of 45 days how much it is the day of delay. So there is 25 days delay in this. So the interest has been calculated for 25th day. And similarly, during the year, if there is any transaction, if you want to see for this example now, 1st December 2024, we have raised the invoice. Actual payment days is also is available 31st Jan 2025. So there is an agreement for that. The agreement means 45th day it should have been happened. So there is a delay of 16 days. So it has calculated. So all the 5 scenarios will give you the overall picture of how the interest MSME calculations needs to be done is covered in this template. So coming back to my PPT. So the benefits of this template from both perspective, from the management perspective as well as the auditor perspective. Invoice management is very easy from the management perspective. Now say if the management downloads all the invoice data and uploads in this template, it will be very easy to maintain one master data of MSME suppliers invoice wise, so that the due date tracking is very easy. So due date also will be able to calculate, okay, whether there is an agreement. If there is an agreement, okay, within 15 days we have to pay that amount. So this will help in due date tracking and interest estimation on a month-on-month basis. So we can avoid that interest also, and avoidance of deductions, disallowance under section 43BH from the management perspective. From the auditor perspective also, we will be able to upload all the data available from the the GL, whatever the invoice wise MSME parties, MSME invoices amount, and upload the whatever the data is available, and whether this is outstanding or when actually it is paid. All those things we can upload and just run the macro. We'll get the estimate number of not estimate, it is an accurate number of interest, amount of interest will be available, and also based on the delayed amount we can upload the payment whatever is outstanding. So that is also available in the template. So the disclosure requirement as per schedule 3 also is available now. Say that the principal amount and interest due thereon we have to update, and there is interest paid by buyer in terms of section 16, which the payment made to the supplier beyond the appointed date during the each accounting year, and the interest due and payable for the period of delay in the making the payment, but without adding any interest specified under MSME. That majorly covers the medium enterprise. All those things, the disclosures are required, and the entire disclosures details will be available in the template. So the key takeaways, in the concluding remarks, this Excel doesn't need any software. This Excel is nothing but the macro enabled Excel. Anybody's system it can open, and automation can be done in this Excel sheet, and auto updates. Now once the data is removed and you update again a new the working will automatically calculate. The interest calculations also will be very much accurate. And the file format, as I told you, this is since it is a macro enabled Excel, there is no need of downloading any other like Python or some other softwares are not required, and it is freely available. So concluding remarks is this, and thanks for the opportunity, and I'd like to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Swastik, for demonstrating macro-based approach for computing MSME related interest delays. It was a good presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Then, as a conclusion, I would like to emphasize that the main requirement is to maintain a MSME register with details like whether agreement is entered or not with your vendor. If the same is not there, by default, the due date is 15 days from the date of acceptance or from the date of invoice. It will not be 45 days. That is very key thing that we should apprise the stakeholders appropriately. Then thank you, Swastik, once again. Then our next session will be on next Thursday with a topic called Power BI. I request all of you to take participation in the upcoming session. Thanks for showing good interest in today's topic as well as previous topics. Thank you. Let us meet on next Thursday at 8 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Please provide your faculty feedback. We will be sharing one form in the group. You may submit your faculty feedback form over there. Thank you.